Hey, folks, and welcome to the Banners Fly Forever football show. It is just me, Tim, tonight for a mock draft. Only a few days before the NFL draft, as I'm speaking, we are about 72 hours ahead of the NFL draft this Thursday. So this is about as close of information as I think we're going to get prior to the NFL draft to figure out where these players are going. I've had a lot of talk of who's going where, what trades are going to happen, who's moving up, who's moving down. And so far, this is where I'm kind of at on where things I think will fall. So without, much further ado, I think we'll get right into this one. We're going to mock all the first-round picks tonight. There are going to be some trades involved in it, and we will just kind of see where everything falls and lies as we go. So we'll go ahead and enter the draft here and start things up. It is no surprise really at the top. I think this one is the only pick that we really can be sure about that's set in stone right now. Caleb Williams is going to go to the Chicago Bears, number 1 overall, the USC quarterback. The Bears have already traded away Justin Fields. They have said pretty much in as bluntly, without saying it way as possible, that they are going to be taking Caleb Williams. And Caleb has, for seemingly the most part, been totally good with going to Chicago. No matter what has been said in the media, no matter if RG3 is telling him to pull an Eli Manning or not, he has seemingly been good with going to Chicago, and he should be. It's one of the better setups a quarterback taken 1 overall is ever walking into. A 7-10 team last year that's brought in some players to make the team even better this year. So now the draft actually starts when we get to number 2. I know all of the talk is Jaden Daniels. I still think it's going to be Drake May. I just think that when it comes down to it, that the talent of May, the prototypical size, the prototypical arm strength, he's way more mobile than people want to give him credit for. When mobility comes and is talked about, it's usually Jaden Daniels that's being discussed, and he is definitely a little, quicker, has a little more wiggle. But Drake May can run, and he is going to be using his feet in Washington should he go there. And I really do believe that Drake May is going to be the pick at 2 overall. Now we get to 3. And this is where things get really, really interesting. There's been some reports just today that the Patriots are listening to offers. This close to the actual draft, that seems to be a little more smoke for me than just, talk. If they're listening to offers, if that's a serious report and that they are trying to get, the best offer, I think they might be moving out of this pick. And I think they're trying to get the Minnesota Vikings to pay a king's ransom to come up. And I'm going to go ahead and say that the Vikings pay that king's ransom. As Dan and I usually talk about this on here, we don't want to get too lost in the sauce on what's going on here. I'm going to give that the Patriots are giving back a third next year along with 3, but they're getting 11, 23, and the Vikings first next year. That the Vikings are going all out here to trade up. And that they're going to come up and they're going to take Jaden Daniels here at 3. I know that McCarthy's been linked as a possibility with Kevin O'Connell there. But I really do believe that they're going to go ahead and come up here and take their, highest graded quarterback on the board. And for who few, not many, have as the number 1 quarterback in the draft, even above Caleb Williams. So the NFC North is going to add 2 of the top quarterbacks in this draft in the first 3 picks. So then that gets us to number 4 overall, the Cardinals. A lot of talk of, is Monty Osenfort going to do what he did last year, and he's going to try to trade back and then trade back up and, do his thing. I just think the Cardinals have plenty of draft stock in this draft that they're not overly concerned. Let's pull up their list here. 4, 27, 35, 66, 71, 90, 104, 138. I mean, they have 6 picks in the top 90, 5 picks in the top 71. I don't think their concern right now is trading back and getting a lot more pick stock. I think they want to get a game-changing player, and that's Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, I just think they need a wide receiver. He's one of the best wide receiver prospects to come out in years. It just seems like it would be a little foolish to overthink this and try to overplay your hand to get some extra picks when Marvin Harrison's just sitting right there. So I'm going to take Marvin Harrison right off the board at 4. Now at 5, I do think the Chargers are willing to move back, and I think that's very real. The Chargers, I think, want to go offensive line here. And if they do want to go offensive line, they could just take Joe Alt at this pick. But the Chargers also could load up on some more draft stock. Again, they have 537, 69, 105. So, they have a good set of picks here, but it's never going to hurt them to get some more quality day 2 picks involved. So who do the Chargers trade back to? I think they're going to want to stay in the range of around the Bears, the Jets, the Patriots, the Broncos, this area. And I just think that we saw today the Broncos signing or trading for Zach Wilson. I don't think that means anything. I think the Broncos still want to get up here. They still want to try to grab a quarterback. And I think Sean Payton really does love the idea of having J.J. McCarthy on his team. So I'm going to have the Broncos moving up with the Chargers here. And they are going to, again, I think we could be getting a little lost in the sauce again if we're arguing what they're going to give up. I'm going to go ahead and have the Chargers give back a 4th in here. I think it's a little different here because the Chargers have plenty of teams that would want to move up for this pick, but the Broncos want to get up for the quarterback. So they have to pay up for that, that quarterback price, but they're kind of bidding against themselves. I'm not sure how many other teams are trying to get up for McCarthy in particular that are in the range of where they are picking. Technically the Raiders could be, but I think the Raiders are okay staying pat and hoping that they can get a guy like Michael Penix at some point in this draft. And I don't think McCarthy is the guy that they're aiming at. So I'm going to go ahead. We're going to force this trade through, and we're going to say Denver comes up to 5, and that they take J.J. McCarthy here. So that would be 4 quarterbacks in the top 5 picks. The Broncos want to get up ahead of the Giants, who could potentially be taking a quarterback, which puts the Giants on the clock. Giants desperately need wide receiver help. I just think they can't pass on the opportunity to get themselves a big play receiver that something could be the top receiver in the draft in Malik Nabers. So I'm going to have them take Malik Nabers here. They're going to go through the 2024 season with Daniel Jones in the idea that if it doesn't look good again, that they move on from Jones and they find their quarterback next offseason. But they already have an established wide receiver 1 on that team for that quarterback when they come in. Tennessee Titans, I feel like we always talk over them because it seems like they are going offensive line, and Joe Alt gets to them almost always in a lot of these mocks. And I think that's the closest pick to one that I feel pretty confident on is if Alt is there at 7, I think they're just going to take Alt. I know there's the potential that they could trade back and they could get themselves in a position that they do not have to take, Alt, but could get Fashanu or any of the F offensive linemen. But I think they're going to see that Alt's the best guy on the board, and they're going to take the best guy available. Now we get to the Falcons at 8, and I think the Falcons are an interesting spot because a lot of people are saying they're going to go for pass rush, and I think they will want to go pass rush, but at this point, no pass rushers have been taken. So starting off the trend at 8 could be all right, but also they could fall back a few picks. And with Rome Odunze still there on the board, there's plenty of teams that I think want to come up and try to get a guy like Rome Odunze. And the Falcons do want to get that high-quality pass rusher, but they can go ahead and make sure that they're going to get a little more value before taking them. So I think they're going to have a trade proposal that works out for them with the New York Jets that allows the Jets to come up 2 spots. They're going to give up a 3rd-round pick this year and a 5th-round pick in 2025 to move up 2 spots to get themselves Rome Odunze. They're going to jump the Bears and stop the Bears from getting the Caleb Williams-Rome Odunze double down. And they are going to go up and take Rome Odunze here and give Garrett Wilson another wide receiver that takes, top corner maybe off of Wilson, but really spreads out the talent in the passing game. You don't trade for Aaron Rodgers to wait a few years. Guy's 40 years old. They want to win now. They're going to go get a weapon to win right now. Now we got the Bears up at 9, and I think in this scenario, the Bears would probably want to trade back because I don't think there's anything jumping off the board for them here at 9. And there's a few teams back here that I think could try to jump up the board for a tackle, but I just don't know if any of them are seeing the rush to do so. There are probably 3 or 4 different guys still here in Fotanu, in Fuaga, in Oli Fashanu, and in JC Latham that are all sitting here that I don't think they're going to feel the rush to do so. So I think the Bears are going to be stuck in this spot, and all the talk in Chicago is the Bears need to have a good 3-tech, and that's what makes Matty Eberflus's defense go, and that's why I'm going to have Byron Murphy going at 9 overall. A little rich for my blood, but it just feels like that is the way that the cards are kind of laying out here. The Falcons now come back up at 10, and I think they're going to end up getting the guy that they were probably going to take at 8 anyway, in Dallas Turner after trading back. So this is a nice little move for them. They gained a couple extra picks, one this year, one next year, and still got the guy that they wanted in Dallas Turner. So now we move on to the Patriots, who have traded back from 3 to 11. I think the idea here in their mind is they need to build up their team before the point that they're getting that quarterback, that they can't just drop a rookie quarterback into a pretty awful situation and hope that it's all going to be successful. So I think they're going to build up the offensive line. I think they want to build up and make sure that they are talented in their front so that when that rookie or, young, even veteran quarterback comes in, that someone's blocking for them that can handle things. So I actually think the second best tackle in this class is Olu Fashanu, and I think they're going to go with a guy like him here at 11. I think Fashanu has some things to work on still, but the Patriots probably aren't worried about that being, he plugs in as a rookie and he is perfect. They're okay waiting a little time for him to have that success. So I'm going to go ahead and say that Olu goes here at 11. And now the Chargers come up at 12. And I think the Chargers, while, I think Fuaga and Fotanu are actually probably maybe the stronger fits or maybe stronger players in this draft, I think they're set on JC Latham. For whatever reason, it rings out to me that they're going to aim for a right tackle. They already have Rashawn Slater on this team. You got JC Latham, who's already been playing a lot of right tackle in school, and it falls perfectly for them to fall back from 5 to 12, gain an extra first-round pick next year from a Broncos team. And I know they were trading in division, which seems crazy, and you probably yelled it out when I did it. But if you're trading in division, you got to make sure you're getting some advantage to it. And I think getting the Broncos first-round pick next year is a big get. J.J. McCarthy may not start right away at the beginning of the year. He might have to sit a little bit and, build his way into being in the league. That could be a really high pick. So the Chargers do well for themselves getting a guy that I think they might be aiming at already and getting that first rounder next year. Okay, so now we're at the Raiders at 13. And this is kind of where I think things start to get really interesting because there's been plenty of talk that the Raiders could be a team that looks to take Michael Penix, but 13 feels a little high to me. And there's a guy at the top of the board here in Brock Bowers that I think is still going to have interest from teams. And the one that I keep circling and I keep thinking they want to make a move is the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals are going into probably, maybe, their last year with T. Higgins to pair up with Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow throwing the ball. And I think they're kind of a go-for-broke year here. I think they want to load up this team and make a run here for a Super Bowl. They have to get by Mahomes, obviously, but you got the Bills have taken a step back with all of their trades and the moves they're making. They're seemingly going to kind of do a retool here. So the Bills are kind of out of the equation. The Texans are obviously getting a little bit better, but there's a time to strike, and I think it's now, and I don't think it's going to be a crazy cost to come up from 18 to 13 here. So I'm going to have them going 18, 49 for 13, and let's throw in 208. I don't know. This could be fair. This might be too rich. This might not be enough, but that's what we're going with here. The main thing here is that the Bengals are going to try to move up here so that they can take the very highly touted tight end in Brock Bowers to load up their team with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Brock Bowers in that passing game. They're just going to throw the ball over everybody with Zach Moss and Chase Brown being their running backs. They're just like, nah, we're throwing the ball. The Saints are desperate for tackle. I think Fautino could be interesting because he can play so many different spots on the line, but the Saints desperately need a true tackle with the injuries going on their team, the lack of depth. I'm going to say Talise Fuaga is the pick here at 14. They just need to get themselves some protection against, a decent set of defenses that they're going to be going up against in 2024, but mostly their quarterback tends to take sacks and hits and isn't very mobile. So you need to keep him protected while in the pocket. So that is the goal here. The Colts are up on the clock here at 15, and Quinyon Mitchell has just kind of fallen right in their laps. I love Quinyon Mitchell. I know some people have Terrion Arnold ahead of him. I just think this is too good of a prospect for the Colts to pass up on. Wide receiver might be a bigger need, but it's a very deep draft at wide receiver. So I like Quinyon Mitchell going here to Indianapolis at 15. I think that's kind of a home run for Chris Ballard to just stay pat at 15 and end up with what could be the best defensive player in the draft here. At 16, the Seahawks hit the clock, and the Seahawks feel like a team that wants to go defense as well to me. It just feels like I feel like they're going to want to rebuild that defense to build themselves back up when you're in a division with, the Kyle Shanahan 49ers and the Sean McVay Rams and, I guess Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. with the Cardinals. Defense is going to be important. And I'm going to have them actually taking a swing here at Leatu Latu. I know that he has the injury stuff, and so this could end up being a pick that's not even close because he's off a lot of teams' boards. But I think Latu has such upside and such a big ceiling that the Seahawks would see this as a great opportunity to get themselves a really high blue chip style player that's falling down boards a little bit because of the medical stuff. If they have the medicals cleared, I think he's the pick here. So now the Jaguars get up at 17, and the Jaguars are in an interesting spot because they really could go either side of the ball, and there's a lot of options available. I feel like they're going to want to boost their defense a little bit. I know that there is a need to protect Trevor Lawrence and to make sure that he can get the ball out. And I do believe there is even a need at maybe wide receiver here with the likes of Calvin Ridley moving on. But I just think there's an opportunity here to take another really good defensive player, and that's Terrion Arnold, and boost their secondary. The Jaguars need to be able to stop teams for Trevor Lawrence to win games. They can't keep giving up tons of points and hope that, their offense is going to do enough to keep them on the winning end. And I think they have to build up that defense. So I'm going to go with Arnold here at 17. At 18, I kind of hinted at it before, but I do think, for whatever reason, I really do think the Raiders have a thing for Michael Penix. And maybe it seems counter productive or, kind of crazy to have wanted to trade back and then still be drafting the quarterback. You would just take him when you can get him. I think they aren't as worried in this area between 13 and 17 that Penix is going off the board, and they're willing to trade back a little bit and then still take Penix. So that's what they do here. And then 19, the Rams. Hey, the Rams have a first-round pick. Sean McVay has a first-round pick, everybody. The Rams need to find themselves a game changer here, and they lost, a Hall of Fame defensive tackle already this offseason. So why wouldn't they try to replace that position and get a guy like Johnny Newton out of Illinois, who I just think the Rams know that they can probably score points still. Sean McVay's leading an offense with Matt Stafford, and they have Cooper Kupp, and they have Puka Nacua. So they may want to protect Stafford, especially in his older age now. But I just think there's a bigger need right now on the defensive side of the ball, again, in that tough NFC West. So they go Johnny Newton. The Steelers get up here at 20, and lots of ways they can go, but I'm going to have them going with Brian Thomas Jr. You probably think like the Steelers don't actually need to make a wide receiver pick in the first round because they'll just take a receiver in the second and third round and it'll turn to gold like it always does. But I do think they really want to make sure that they're taking one of the higher prospects in this draft, and they're going to pair Brian Thomas in with George Pickens and hope that they can resurrect Russell Wilson's career or get something out of Justin Fields that the Bears could not get. So they're going to go with Brian Thomas Jr. here. The Dolphins now are up at 21, and there's a lot of different ways that they could go about this as well. They had some contracts they had to pay, so they were losing some players. But what actually falls really nicely for them, I think, is Troy Fautanu being on the board here still. I think he's a very talented tackle, but he might end up having to move inside. But that's okay. The Dolphins could use a guard as well. The Dolphins could use a center probably as well. Fautanu probably can play all 5 positions. So it's a really, really nice drop for them right in their lap to get him. Eagles, I know a lot of people have been kind of saying this pick, but it just feels like that pick. It just feels like the one that's like, yep, that lines up really nicely in Cooper DeJean going right to Philadelphia. They could use the extra defensive back help. They probably wouldn't mind having a guy who's a decent punt returner along with it. So DeJean to the Eagles is the play there. So now the Patriots are back up because they made that trade with the Vikings. Just to remind you, they took Olu Fashanu in at pick 11. They come back up here at 23, and they're really excited to see that Jared Verse is still here on the board. They're going to rebuild both sides of the ball in the trenches to rebuild this team back up, and they get one of the best offensive linemen and one of the best edge rushers in this draft. It's a nice little play for them considering they were at 3, possibly taking a quarterback that was going to be just getting the Bryce Young treatment this year. So now the Cowboys are up at 24, and it is an interesting position because I think the Cowboys could go a bunch of different ways. But I think they will want to try to go with a guy like Amarius Mims. I know this looks like I'm going just chalk right down the middle of the board here, but Mims is the hardest to project probably of any of the first round picks, but is also one of the most enticing. He did not play in a ton of games, but 6'7", he's 340 pounds. He's still relatively young. Just kind of the sky is the limit with this guy. And I think Jerry Jones is going to want to try to hit a home run here, picking at 24 and going like, I'm going to find that guy that becomes, the biggest staple for our offensive line, and hoping that his coaches can coach him up and get him to where he needs to be. So I'm going to have Mims going here at 24. The Packers come up at 25, and there's just tons of different ways that they could go with this pick. They are a young team, very young, very talented, really almost made the NFC Championship game last year. Pains me to say it as a Bears fan. And the board is getting a little thinner here, but Graham Barton is still on the board, and this is another guy that is kind of one of those flex positions that he can maybe play almost any position on the line, and protecting Jordan Love and keeping that offense, moving in a consistent manner and not having to move backwards is going to be a big thing for Matt LaFleur. And I think Graham Barton would be the pick if he's still on the clock here. Tampa Bay comes up at 26, and Tampa Bay is going to need to start looking at fixing up their defense and getting younger there. Their unit was pretty old last year. Again, Tampa was a team, they won a playoff game last year, went a little bit further than I think a lot of us may have even thought they were going to go. And I'm going to have them taking speedy, really talented corner that's kind of gotten forgotten in the process a little bit in Nate Wiggins here. They get the chance to really start getting some talent back on that defensive side of the ball and building that back up. So I like Wiggins here to Tampa. Arizona comes back up. This is their second pick of the first round. Marvin Harrison Jr. was who they took previously. I think that they actually might take a stab here at a guy that is intriguing to a number of teams, but no one's really totally sure what to do with him yet, and that's Chop Robinson. I think Chop Robinson is going to find his way into the first round. Just those testing numbers are really high. It's fun to imagine what you could do scheming him up on a defense. And I just think Jonathan Gannon probably likes the idea of getting a guy like this on his team. So we're going to go ahead and give him to Arizona. Buffalo stays patient at 28. They stay there, and things fall nicely for them that A.D. Mitchell comes right to 28. They may have even been trying to get up the board a little bit earlier, but they stayed patient. A lot of teams have Buffalo trying to move up highly in this draft, and maybe they are, but I just feel like all the moves that they're making where they're, trading away Steph Diggs and they're letting, kind of talented free agents walk and not re-signing guys to big contracts, they're willing to take a down year here. And I don't think they're going to feel pressure to make the huge move to go up and get one of the top wide receivers. I think they're going to kind of wait and see and let somebody come to them. And in my draft here, Mitchell falls right to him here at 28. And it's just kind of the perfect little spot for him. The Lions here at 29. So the Lions are one of the interesting spots because the Lions tend to make picks that I'm not totally expecting. They did it twice last year. If you remember the live draft show Dan and I did with Jahmyr Gibbs and Jack Campbell in the first round. Very surprising on both picks to me. And I'm going to have them actually going for a guy that I just think screams Dan Campbell, and that's Braden Fisk. I know that he's probably a little smaller and undersized than what you're hoping for from a defensive interior player, but he just plays like a Dan Campbell Detroit Lion. And for that reason, and almost alone, I'm going to have him finding his way into the first round. I know my screen's blocking you a little bit here, but the Ravens are up on the clock. You can see them up on here. The Ravens historically are one of those teams that just kind of sits back and lets the draft come to them. And I think there's an opportunity here for the Ravens to have somebody trade back into the first round to take a guy because there's even the potential, a team looking to get Bo Nix on a 5-year, a rookie with a 5th-year option contract could jump up here. But I'm just not sold that anybody else is dying to get up for those quarterbacks because a lot of the teams that needed them did what they needed to do to get in that position. If we look at the trade menu here, the only team that kind of stands out where they're not having to drop too crazy far is the New York Giants. Actually, no, I think the Giants don't have a pick for a little bit still. So it isn't even the Giants. So if they were to drop back here, I mean, we're looking at, we already had, we could have the Patriots trying to jump back up in here and getting themselves Bo Nix. Maybe they're like, hey, the opportunity is there. But again, I just think the Patriots' plan was going to be to just take it easy this year, ride it out, and build up for 2025. If Nix gets to them in the second round, they'll do it, but I don't think they're rushing to get up there. So with the Ravens on the clock here, I think they're going to end up going with a guy that I just keep suspecting is going to sneak his way into the first round, and that's Ladd McConkey. I know a lot of people really, really love his game, and I just think the Ravens are looking for weapons on their offense still. I know that they've invested a lot in wide receiver with Zay Flowers, with Rashad Bateman, but Odell Beckham's going to be gone now, and I just think they want to try to find a second receiver that they can trust. I don't think they truly trust Bateman yet. So I think they'll take Ladd McConkey here. The Niners come up on the clock here at 31, and they could use getting themselves a solid offensive tackle, but there's not a ton at the top here to really be thinking that they're going to jump on. But then there are a few in Jordan Morgan and Tyler Guyton a little further down the board here that I think they might just take a stab at. Lucky for them, they have some really good established offensive linemen there already. A guy like Trent Williams is already there. So I'm looking at a guy like Guyton who's 6'7", 327. And, they even say it on the analysis here that he's raw, and he is raw. It's going to take a little time for him to adjust to the pro game and to become a NFL tackle. But what better spot to learn than in San Francisco with one of the best tackles to play the game in the last 20 years or so. So I'm going to go ahead and have Guyton go to the Niners. And the Chiefs here are up at 32, last pick of the first round. And I think you could make an argument that they would go with a offensive lineman, keep protecting Mahomes, a defensive lineman, and get to the quarterback. But where I'm going to go is probably more of the fun pick. But I think they are going to end up, where are my wide receivers at, taking a stab at Xavier Worthy, that the speed is just too much for them to pass up on, that they love the idea of Mahomes having a field stretcher there to be able to threaten defenses with the deep ball, and a guy that would be able to, take a crossing pattern to the house at any given point. It kind of would be a really nice fit for Worthy. Anybody going to Kansas City is a nice fit when you have Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback. But Worthy, I think, is a guy that might end up sneaking into the first round, and I'm going to have him going here to Kansas City. So let's analyze my draft. Oh, I got a reward. Cool. So we had Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels. That was with the Vikings trading up for Jaden Daniels. Marvin Harrison Jr., J.J. McCarthy, Malik Neighbors, Joe Alt, Roma Dunze, Byron Murphy II, Dallas Turner, Olu Fashanu, J.C. Latham, Brock Bowers, Talise Fuaga, Quinyon Mitchell, Leatu Latu, and then Terrion Arnold. Michael Penix goes 18 to the Raiders, Johnny Newton, Brian Thomas Jr., Troy Fountainu, Cooper DeJean, Jared Verse, Amarius Mims, Graham Barton, Nate Wiggins, Chop Robinson, A.D. Mitchell, Braden Fisk finds his way in the first round, Ladd McConkey finds his way into the first round, Tyler Guyton finds his way into the first round, and Xavier Worthy to the Chiefs at 32. That's how I have it going right now. We will see, how close I am. I'm sure I'm way off. This is like trying to pick, the perfect NCAA bracket. There's just too many variables and too many moving parts to ever hit 100%. But I think this draft is kind of interesting because it has the potential for a lot of movement near the top of the draft with the quarterbacks and the quarterback needy teams, the top wide receivers that are there. But it is deep at wide receiver. It is deep at tackle. But then the draft overall is not crazy deep when you start getting into like day 3. So will we see more movement in round 1 and then rounds 2 and 3 because there is not a ton of talent as the draft progresses late into Saturday? I think there's the potential of that. I think that some teams are looking at this going, I'm not as concerned about, getting myself 5th and 6th and 7th round picks, 4th round picks, that there's some top talent, some really good players near the top, and then a bunch of players that you're really kind of questioning, what their level of impact is going to be on your franchise. So I think we have kind of the perfect storm mix of maybe a crazy round 1 and a crazy day 2. And in all, ways, this may not have actually been that crazy of a mock that I put together when all is said and done Thursday night. We will see. But until then, I'm thrilled that we are on draft week, that we are just days away from finding out where all these players are going to be playing in the NFL. And I hope that you will stick with us and, let us know how we did on this mock, how we did on our other mocks, and make sure to like and subscribe, follow along, engage on X and here. It's been really, really fun getting to create these videos and talking to all you as we lead up to the draft. And I just can't wait for Thursday night, and I hope you're ready too. Take care, everybody.